In previous portions, we talked about Abraham's character, about how he is being the representative of the chesed of our and also of our high neshama, about the qualities and characteristics that he has as a figure. So it's such an important figure in the biblical story. And here in this portion, even if indirectly, we get to know a bit of Yitzchak character. We get to know a bit of this man who will continue Abraham's legacy and eventually will become the root from which the Jewish nation will be created. So we know very little of Yitzchak in general, his life and characteristics. Yitzchak character is revealed to us through small and narrow episodes in the biblical story. We meet him as a chain of reflections in comparison to his to his great father Abraham. To be more exact, even in the scriptures, the life of Yitzchak are in a way a battleground of his father's struggles, tussles, and deliberations with himself and with the divine, with God. Abraham, as a man of kindness, as the representative of the attribute of chesed, is actually struggling with his own internal strength and courage, which is expressed with or by the ultimate divine demand from him to sacrifice his own son. We see here there is a strong connection between those two, between Abraham and Yitzchak, between Abraham, that is the representative of Chesed, and Yitzchak, which we will learn that he is the representative of Gevurah. So there is a struggle here, an inner struggle inside Abraham that is represented also on the outside. Abraham is in a way fearing or considering the danger lays within the Gevurah attribute, because Gevurah is an extremely powerful attribute and its strength may overcome the Chesed. Because if we want to give something, to contribute something, and the opposite force for that would be the holding back and the not giving or the receiving, then if in case we're not balanced here, then the Gvura has a very, very big power, enormous power over Chesed, and it can overcome it. There is a continuous tension, then, therefore, between those two. Also, under this matter, I want us to touch a bit or see the relationship between Avram and Sarah, his wife. In Kabbalah teachings, we know that we always have a reversed ratio between tools and lights, between vessels and the light. Tools are the vessels that accept lights inside them. Now we're talking here about divine lights. And so there would be always a vessel, and a light then what will want to go inside the vessel. The vessels are the attributes of the tree of life. The Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut, those are vessels, but those are also on a different level are lights. And therefore, for example, a tool will receive the lights from other vessels, or a vessel will receive the lights from other vessels, but also will that later would be able to direct his own light to other vessels. If that makes any sense, I hope it is. We will talk about this later, we will touch it more. So we have Abraham, the representative of the Chesed attribute, and his wife, Sarah, his vessel. Now, this vessel, Sarah, is is a vessel for this specific light of Chesed, and she is the opposite from Chesed. So she have much in her to point out the opposite characteristics from Abraham, though her Gevurah, her force, her might, or her holding back would be much more settled than that of her son Yitzchak later on. We will see it. She's demanding from Abraham to to deport Hagar and Ishmael from their lives. She has a very strong opinion in regards to everything that's going on in the tent, in the family. She, according to the Midrash, also in Egypt had a special angel. The Midrash is telling us that when Sarah was in Egypt with Abraham, known to be his sister, she had an angel who served her and defended her. This angel was doing everything that she requested him to do. With this angel, she was able to repel anyone who came near her, including Pharaoh. The angel attacked Pharaoh and his servants at Sarah's command. So here is a very strong woman who could not care less, in a way, from nothing but her own life, the life of her husband, and the life of their little dearest child, Yitzhak. Sarah was devoted to her life task rather than to other people. She knew she will become the one from which the entire dynasty of the Jewish nation will be created. She had the strength, she has the power, the might. She does not give herself completely, she holds back. So if it rings a bell, this is the attribute of Gvura. She has within her the female characteristics of the Gvura attribute. And she is the opposite force to Abraham, and therefore she completed him in their joint journey as husband and wife. Now take into consideration that we're talking here about figures within our inner soul. So here is those two people, those of Abraham and Sarah, with each one of them represent a different attribute within ourselves, and we need to somehow balance the two. But we are still in the, we can say, the land of chesed, the land of grace. Abraham's story is more telling us about the attribute of chesed. Now let's try to examine Yitzhak's life and the event that took place in his childhood and his youth as a masculine representer of the attribute of Gvura. Yitzhak had to go through some extreme events during his lifetime, and those events must have been very real in his life, and therefore examined, determined, and shaped his behavior as well as his life pattern. Those events will also give us a glimpse on his special character and personality. The biblical story does not provide us with a lot of information and details about Yitzhak himself. Miraculously born, this child was a divine masterpiece. As such, he signified for his parents their soul fulfillment as well as the power of their absolute belief. Yitzhak symbolizes for his parents an ideal of a divine providence, as well as the fulfillment of the divine promise for them, for their continuance. Yitzhak the child grew up as an absolute sign of manifestation of miracles and faith to God. Because of his parents' intense love towards him, Yitzhak grows up as he's shaping his character and building his personality as an ideal figure. He is the good child, the chosen one, the talented child, the right boy for them. And as such, his dependence on his parents is absolute. Yitzhak is the child who deserves everything. He is the receiving boy. He's the receiving kid. And here also we can enter again the attributes. When we know that Gvura is the one that holds back, that receives, that gets, it's the Kabbalah, it's the receiving force, in opposite to the Chesed, which is the distribution, the sharing, the giving. So his mother, which was in a way some sort of a manifestation, but in a different magnitude of Gvura, even demanded Hagar and Ishmael to leave their household, that Yitzhak will be kept as the good, ideal child that he was. So Yitzhak has no other peers with equal status to him. He has no friends as far as we know, and he gives in to his parents completely. He gives into their wishes and desires all the time throughout the entire biblical story. He does not revolt against his parents, their extreme authoritative characteristic, and in a way he is even dreading their authority and their extreme superpower over him, along with also the power of the ideal he represents for them. So imagine the amount of mental stress and responsibility a child like this must have. And so Yitzhak's personality is slowly but surely built up as to be introverted. He is passive. He's activated by his parents in a very way. He even kind of a lonely child and isolated. His personality is of a young boy that is walking in the footsteps of his parents without questioning. And this is very different from his two parents, from Avraham and Sarah, that leave their country and their homes to achieve some unknown goal in faraway land. So Yitzhak's figure dimensions were huge. So huge that a child on that age could not grasp, not to speak of the fact that the scope and the magnitude of those dimensions given to him by his parents were also beyond childish attainment. He couldn't grasp nothing of it. Those dimensions even look like, in our eyes anyway, because we know he was sacrificed, as in insanity that was driven out of ideological blindness, even we can say, or people would say, as if in Yitzhak's existence, death had become greater than life itself. We can even say Yitzhak figure in a way is even greater than life itself because of what happened to him. Or in other words, this child's life is dominated by death, and or death is dominated by his life. So either way, this is one special kid here. So we are talking here about a child that his personality developed characteristics of extreme and absolute renunciations of everything, including his life. He gave up everything for his parents. He gave up his life for the divine from such a young age. He literally was sacrificed, and therefore grow up to believe that this is the only way, sacrificing his life and his wills and even his own self characteristics, and what's important to him, and desires. He gave it all up completely to the desires of Hashem, to the desires of God. This is what's going on probably inside Yitzhak psyche, or Yitzhak character. Out of this inner structure of consciousness, as a victim of circumstances, as a victim to his father's absolute belief system in the divine, he becomes a person who devotes his soul to the sanctification of God completely, who consents to even to death, we can say. So Yitzhak in a way is a force that controls over the instinct of life itself. Out of the experience of death, out of the fear and terror, Yitzhak recognizes God's total control over his life. He's not questioning this, he's not doubting this. This is a solid fact in this child's life. The nominal divine involvement that he has experienced as a child on the altar created the concept of fear of Yitzhak, Pachad Yitzhak. It's a well-known fear that one can only overcome by observing Torah and the commandments. Every Jew knows this fear. It's a well-known combination of words when coming to realize or to try and understand the Yitzhak character, but in general. So Avraham does not ask Yitzhak for his will. He decides and states for him. For both of his parents, Yitzhak is like a well-kept precious diamond, reserved and supervised. He must not leave his natural surrounding, he must not leave his natural environment, and cannot leave his home. When he is supposed to get married, he does not consider Rivka's advantages or disadvantages. He agrees to the marriage that decided by his father, his physical father, but also his metaphysical father, the God, the divine, the creator. In any case, when it comes to Yitzhak, marriage, we see again a divine intervention, even in the most material places of his life. He does not confirm or reject the marriage. He is not asked whether he is willing to be married to Rivka, whether he wants to. Nothing. He has no opinion over nothing. He is a passive figure in this story. Yitzhak is a silent figure. But do not be confused, because he is probably the one with the greatest and most powerful internal forces, as he is the representator of the attribute of Gvura. We can see that there is no dialogue between Avraham and Yitzhak of whatsoever. Avraham is the active one, while Yitzhak is the passive one. Avraham's servant receives the power and authority to determine, according to Avraham's instructions, obviously, the future wife that will accompany Yitzhak in the rest of his life. Avraham wants from Eliezer a promise not to take a wife to his son from Canaan, and also not to bring his son back to Aram, to the idol-worshipping cultural environment that he left behind. When it comes to his descendant Yitzhak, Avraham wants to keep his precious diamond out of all those idol-worshipping culture, and he will not be willing to any regression of his spiritual achievements. When we look at Rivka, though, in comparison to Yitzhak, we can see an active figure with an absolute opinion. She holds the power to decide about her future. She is asked whether she should confirm or not the marriage to Yitzhak, whether she wants to go or she doesn't want to go. She is very active, extremely aware of the fact that as a human being, she has the right to choose her own destiny. She will follow Eliezer, but under her own will, and she will leave her family, but under her conditions. Still, she too, like Yitzhak, is characterized by acceptance or receiving. She accepts the servant into her life. She accepts his presence, and she accepts his gifts. She receives from her brother the right to choose her way into marriage. She receives her husband from far away. Eliezer adorns her with jewelry, with dresses, with gowns, and with clothing. So we see here again the characteristics of the Gevura attribute, the power of receiving, of getting, of holding back, of keeping to yourself, as she is equipped with all the virtues, including hospitality and kindness, just like Avraham. So again, we see here a shift from this receiving, getting, everything is hers, she receives everything, everything comes to her. But again, we see here a more modest way of it, because she's also know her way of hospitality and kindness, just like Avraham, just like Chesed. So inside Rivka, we also here have some more balanced force of the Gevura, because she also know how to contribute and to share and to give from what she has. When she gives water for Eliezer camels, this is where we understand that this girl has Chesed inside her. The power of life, the power of the water, the ability to give to the others, the ability to share and to contribute from whatever she has. Just as Avraham, she is characterized by generosity. And here again, we can see the reverse ratio between tools, vessels, to the light. When Yitzhak is the representer of Gevura attribute, while Rivka in their relationship is more the representative, even though she is also very known as a like she has strength she has the power, she has her strong opinion, but she also has inside her the characteristics of chesed, of giving, of sharing. In this divine pairing, in this marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, the hand of destiny is all over the place. Miracles intertwine to become a call for their sacred marriage. However, Rivka is the one who decides to approve the marriage. Will call the girl and ask her mouth, says her family. And later on, also her family is asking for her opinion, whether she would want to go. She's the one that needs to affirm and say, we will go. So Rivka is about to leave her closest people out of free will and marry a man she does not know in a place she's never been to. She is accepting contract with a person that she doesn't know, with a complete stranger, a servant, to leave her family and go to a foreign land, away from all her relatives, away from her any family protection, and into the unknown. In a way, Rivka is doing exactly as Avraham did before her. She is doing her own lech lecha, her own go to yourself. And so we see that the spirit of Avraham is floating or lying or inside Rivka. She does everything quickly. She gives water to the camels. She gives water to Eliezer. As Avraham, she will master herself and determine her destiny by virtue of an internal will and by virtue of a synchronic timing force. Here too, we see destiny, which is God's will, as it comes in terms of self-fulfillment that will lead to the creation of the Jewish dynasty. To the go to yourself that Rivka is doing comes not as the voice of God literally, like Avraham had, but more as a female instinct she has. In due course, she will also become the only woman to receive a direct response from the divine, from God, when she will ask him about the twins when she was pregnant. So unknowingly, she chooses Abraham's path, literally, and begin a journey to reach to Canaan, the symbol of the new existential and spiritual cultural environment of the era back then. Equipped with great values like determination, courage, generosity, and mental maturity that is beyond her age, open-minded and extremely wise, this woman child knows without being told even that the man in the field that she sees from far away is for her, is the one for her, is the one that she will marry. So we can see here in this portion the build-up of forces, the qualities of extremes as they intertwine. And we see the chesed and gvura. We see the chesed of Avraham with the gvura of his wife Sarah intertwine. We see the gvura of Yitzchak and the chesed of Rivka intertwine, each one with the more bigger vantage point of chesed and gvura, as those two couples are referring to each one of the attributes. So on both sides of the tree of life, the wisdom of the Jewish heritage, this is crucial for our understanding and notion and conscience, to be aware to the healthy relationship between those two, between the chesed and gvura, but also to be aware of the continuing struggle within them. Both are definitely in a silent struggle power, and that comes out to be seen in this story characters themselves, as well as inside us, inside our soul. We continue to discover the forces we are made of, our midot, our attributes, and of how to reach the right and healthy balance between them all. After all, Avraham and Sarah, as well as Yitzchak and Rivka, enter the covenant of marriage, and we are to follow their footsteps. So we are probably getting more familiar with those two strong powers, and we are learning through our journey of how to intertwine them, of how to balance them together. So join me next week as we will continue to discover the third attribute of Tiferet, the truth and mercy that is in Jacob character. Have a Shabbat Shalom.